The existing universe, what it is and what it's doing are the same. What do I mean by that? First of all, and for the final time, I'm going to say that I'm way out of my lane. I am a mental health clinician, a clinical social worker. I am not a physicist of any kind. But, you know, we all have ideas about things. We all try to figure things out, whatever it might be. How best to farm our land, how best to be a nurse, how best to do anything. And I've worked on how best to be a mental health clinician, how best to help people. And that's figuring out what is going on with us in terms of our psychological self, our psychological well-being, our relationships, our emotions. And it has to relate to the universe. We can't be just dangling out there with no explanation as to what's going on. It just doesn't make any sense. And so, as I've said on this channel before, a long time ago in the winter of 1983, it just seemed clear to me that life has to be cared for or it dies. So it just seemed clear that caring had to be pretty much the central organizing feature of living beings, because that's pretty much what we're doing. We're living, we're continuing living somehow, all of us, us being you and me and dogs and cats and lions and tigers and trees and plants and amoebas. I mean, we're all living beings. We're all the same, different levels of complexity for sure, and different things coming together, a lot bigger, a lot smaller, etc. There is that difference in complexity, but we're all living beings, and it's got to be true whether it's here on Earth or it's in any other planet or place in the entire universe. It's got to be the same. It can't be different. It doesn't make any sense. And so it also has to relate to just how the universe is formed and forming and continuing to be formed. We have to relate to that somehow. And so just sort of like drilling down deeper and deeper and deeper after life has to be cared for or it dies, it's so what is life? What are molecules? What are atoms? They are explained by physicists now. They know a heck of a lot. Like they say the universe is 13.8 billion years or 14 billion years old. Somewhere around there. So they don't know exactly, but they know well enough to say that. So at some point, there was no physical universe or things you can see like planets and molecules and certainly humans. And so before that, they don't know what exists exactly before that or was existing. But 1 second after that, they do. So you got to think like, again, if they know what was existing 1 second afterwards, they pretty much got to be pretty close to knowing what was existing, before then. So my point about the existing universe, what it is and what it's doing are the same, is that helps us understand us eventually. It helps us understand what we're all about and what we're doing. So again, the physicists and the cosmologists tell us that 1 second after the Big Bang, which is the wrong term apparently because it just wasn't a bang, it wasn't an explosion, it was sort of an emergence. So 1 second, there are these fields of energy. So one would assume anyway that before 1 second, before the Big Bang, there was one big field of energy, and then it looks like, from what they know and they tell us, sort of split into many fields of energy. So that's the beginning, but what's important there is there's nothing to touch. There's nothing to see, there's nothing to smell, there's nothing we can sense. It's basically invisibleness of fields of energy. And they tell us, well, it could be strings, vibrating strings, which they're not really strings, they're just energy things vibrating. Or it's a quantum wave function, or it's just vibrations in fields. But whatever that turns out to be, that's not a noun, that's not a thing, that's a happening. That's a verb. That's a vibrating field or vibrating, not strings, but loops that, again, you can't touch them, you can't see them. They're not really strings like we know to be strings. So the point is that it's vibrations, it's something happening. It's not till we get, within a second or two, we get these 4 matter fields. They call them up quark, down quark, electron, and neutrino, fields of energy. They aren't anything yet that we can see and touch, apparently. They're fields of energy. And then there's the electro-strong force, the electro-weak force, the gravity force, and one other I'm not remembering right now. And then there's the Higgs field. But anyway, there are a total of 9 fields of energy that then start interacting or merging together. And from there, what's emerging are the nucleus of atoms and electrons. And then we have atoms, because all those things merge together, and what emerges are atoms. And eventually, they merge together, and what emerges from that are molecules. And then we're off and running for the rest of the universe, including one day on this planet here, living beings. So that's still the case. It's not like that got constructed and we still don't have fields of energy which are at the basis of everything. And again, that's my point. Fields of energy are at the basis of everything right now and always will be. And they are happening. They are existing. They are vibrating. And that's my point about the existing universe, is that what it is and what it's doing have got to be the same, because what it is are vibrating fields of energy. And that's not a noun, that's a happening, that's a doing. It's doing something. And then all that merging and emerging over billions of years in the universe, and our planet apparently formed about 4.5 billion years ago, and then about 3.5 billion years ago they estimate that living beings happened. But again, they're happening, they're still happening. They were happening then, they're happening now, and you and I are one of those living beings. All that energy, those fields merging, emerging, eventually cause life and us. That'll be the topic of another episode, is the existing us. In other words, what we are and what we're doing are the same, just like the universe. So stay tuned for that. We all try to work together to discover what's actually going on. What's actually going on for us, and therefore, how do we best live our lives in the happiest, most joyful ways, by knowing that, the best, most supportive, loving relationships, and so on. So thank you very much. Take good care. Until next time.